Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Black Atheist Roundtable. I am your host, Cynthia McDonald, and we are here with a wonderful, distinguished panel that I cannot wait to speak with. But before we actually get into our conversation, I just want to do a little housekeeping out the way. Please make sure you like this video, subscribe to Your Friendly Neighborhood Atheist channel, and also make sure that you hit the bell for every time that Your Friendly Atheist goes live. And if you like the content, think about becoming a Patreon. All those particular links are in the show notes below. Thank you. All right, got all that stuff out the way. So let's go around the table. How y'all doing?
Wonderful.
Doing very well.
Good to see you all. Good to see you all. So let's go around the room and just introduce ourselves. Let's start with whomever is on my, I think that's on my right, maybe. I don't know. Something like that. Oh, my other left. On my other right there. Mandisa, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thank you once again for having me, and it's a pleasure to be here with everyone today. I'm Mandisa Thomas, founder and president of Black Nonbelievers, which is based in the Atlanta, Georgia area. I am originally a native of New York City, have been in the Atlanta area since the end of 1997, so over half my life, and pretty much raised secular, came to the atheist identity long ago, but have just been spending a lot of my time engaging more folks, especially more Black atheists, and looking forward to building with everyone here and beyond.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Let's go next. Arthur, who you be? Introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm Arthur Ward. I've been atheist. I'm 64 years old now. I've been an atheist since I was maybe between 13 and 14 years old. Okay. I was born into the Nation of Islam via my parents, and my great-grandmother was taken to church when my grandmother babysitted me. So I got it all. I do marketing, and I'm very comfortable in my atheism. Some people call me the Pope of Atheism. It started as a joke and it kind of stuck. So I just own it now. That's my short story. Okay.
Very nice. Thank you, Arthur. I appreciate that. Let's go next. Mr. Dragnauct, would you please introduce yourself and tell us who you be?
Hi, I'm known as Dragnauct. Some of you probably know me on Facebook as Alfred Mims. I am a former U.S. combat medic, and I am occasionally a co-host on several ACA shows, AXP, Talk Heathen, what have you. I have my own little silly YouTube channel, but what I actually do is I am a graduate student in the program for molecular biotechnology. And so what I intend on doing in the future, once I complete all this education, is eventually become a cancer researcher. So me sort of opine on different topics of theology and dealing with what it is to be kind of a minority within a minority. And since I was raised in a religious household, I share kind of a similar dynamic with quite a few others, but with the one caveat that my mother encouraged me to think for myself. Unfortunately, I took that a little bit too far.
Never take that too far. Never. Ever. Thank you. Next, Jenna, if you would please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Yes, good evening. I am Jenna. I am a moderator on the ACA Discord server. I also do host a semi-weekly live stream called If Was. It's a If We Are Sober live stream broadcast that I co-host with my friend Justin through the Discord channel. I, of course, grew up in a Christian household. I am actually presently a closeted atheist, so I do take a bit of a risk doing this. I just, in the last year, exactly about a year, just came to terms with my non-belief, battling with it internally myself for several years. If anything, I just try to open myself to open discussion, discovering other Black atheists like myself, learning from others, just absorbing as much as I can to now that I've welcomed myself into this whole new world that I'm still very new of, still very fresh, learning a lot and finding enough confidence in myself to potentially come out when I'm ready, or if my family or church friends or whatever happen to see this, well, there you go.
Well, thank you so much for coming here and being brave enough to really, share your thoughts about this whole topic. So we really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. And last but certainly not least, Kevin, could you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
My name is Kevin, 29. I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama, as they call it, the Bible Belt. And I've been an atheist since I think I officially came out when I was 17. I've always had questions since I was like 13 or 14, but I officially just let it go at 17 or something like that. So about 10 years, I guess. I have my own podcast on, you can check it out on Apple Music and stuff like that. I'm also in film school to be a director. I have my own YouTube. You can check out a couple of my content there. I don't know. I've just at a young age, I've always had questions and stuff like that. So I've always been a free thinker, and I've always asked the questions that people are afraid to ask. And I always take that next step forward to figure something out instead of just, accepting it for what it is. I always wanted to, I've always had a hunger for knowledge, just to be better and to think and to, use my brain, more than most people that I know in my circle, really. I don't know. I guess that's it. K Smooth is my nickname. I'm pretty sure you guys see the Kevin K Smooth down there. That's actually a nickname given to me by my best friend, and it kind of just stuck. It's not as cool as the Pope of Atheism, but it's the name has weight. But yeah, I'm just excited to get to know everybody. I mean, I'm just a normal guy in Birmingham, Alabama. Oh, and I sell phones for Verizon, by the way. So there's that.
Right.
Oh, nice.
All right. Well, if you're in Birmingham, Alabama, you need a phone, holler at K Smooth. Very good.
Yes.
All right. Thank you all very much for introducing yourselves. So let's just get into the conversation. So I just said this like right before we actually started talking. So like when you Google Black atheists, Mandisa Thomas's picture comes up. Okay, like I almost feel like in these particular time period, like when you think black atheists, you think the Black non-believers founder and also president, Ms. Mandisa Thomas. So Mandisa, I want to ask you, what really inspired you to, because it's one thing just to say, okay, I'm atheist, right? But what really got you into doing like advocacy work in this particular space?
It was primarily how I came to, or how I came to my re-liberation as a non-believer. Now, my background is maybe similar to Arthur's. I wasn't necessarily brought up in Islam, but I was raised in the Black conscious community. And so with that, and being exposed to both Christianity, Islam, and also, the teachings of, liberation and fighting against injustice, I was very, very outspoken, as even, when I was young. And so from that, and I never liked feeling confined. I mean, I didn't escape indoctrination, but having come to that liberation for myself and realizing that in everything I had been through in my life, I wasn't alone. Realizing that, there were probably other people who were going through the same things that I went through. And just really, really wanting to connect with those, especially more Black folks that I knew, or that we, that I suspected were going through that transition as well. And so it just really stemmed from wanting to connect with others and my sense of liberation, and really just wanting to jump in and get involved, because I wasn't, this movement was here before me, and there were other people. This is nothing new. And if you know anything about the Black community, you know that, the sense of, like liberation and resistance has always been there for us. Unfortunately, there are times where it's obscured because of the heavy religious presence, and that needed to change. And I realized that it had to start with us. If I could, lend what, my skills and do what I do what I do best, which is connecting with other people. If I could use that to contribute to this community that was already in existence, but of course, it's still kind of sort of in its infancy. We're still growing our demographic. But if I could do my part, to help this grow because of how I grew and how I became liberated, then who knows where we could be. And so that's just really where it came from. It wasn't because I was looking to be this person who shows up, in the search engine. That really wasn't the intention here. But because I know when I get involved in something, and because it was life changing for me, I decided to dedicate my life to it. And so this is where we are now.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. So you brought up something like really prevalent, I will say, definitely in like the Black community, especially when you talked about kind of like, even though that you didn't grow up like in like a theistical like household, you still grew up like consciousness, but you are very familiar with people who happen to be in those particular spaces. So even though like we already know that like Black people are very they have different belief systems, but like primarily it's Christianity. Like when you think Black folk, you think church, right? And I kind of wanted to kind of go around the room, whoever wants to jump in, to really talk about like Black people in America and Christianity, especially if that was your practice before you came to being atheist, and what your relationship was with that, and then kind of like how you found yourself out of that. Jenna, can we start with you, and then we'll just go around.
Certainly. Well, I mean, as a closeted atheist, I'm still very much in it. So when church was open, I still went to church. I still went to church with my family. So over the years, it's been, in the beginning, it was hard being constantly questioning on my own by myself. I've never been very outspoken of a person. I'm very introverted. So I always kept a lot of things to myself, which in the long run has kind of hurt me in a sense. But, as years went on and I came more to terms with my non-belief, I got more, I guess at this point, I tolerate going, and I am actually not really looking forward to going back once that reopens. But I guess finding my way out pretty much started, it was a lot of events. I would say I didn't fully understand or know what it meant to be an atheist until college, when I was around a diverse group of people. And around the time where my father had suddenly passed, that was hard hitting for me. And so, questioning like why he was taken from us and things like that, even though I was fairly young adult, it was still, still needing your father in your life is pretty important. And I was a daddy's girl myself. So, losing that and questioning a lot of things brought me to researching more, brought me to watching more documentaries, brought me to discovering podcasters that speak openly about being non-believers. But in the midst of all that, over all these years, still, slowly still didn't find any people of our skin tone that are in this small circle, and it is a small circle that I've come to understand. So now that I'm in this moment, I'm so sorry, I guess my camera went out, but now that I'm in this stage of my life that I'm just still learning and I'm still new to this, I'm trying to just be more open and trying to find my confidence in myself to be more open and to speak with others that I can relate to in regards to things like this. So
thank you. I appreciate that. Anybody else want to kind of jump in, talk really about, you know, especially the ones like that come from like more of a theistic background, specifically Christianity, and your experiences from like transitioning from that to where you are right now?
Yeah, I guess I could. I want to try and let other people talk because I can monologue for a while. For those who live kind of in the Atlanta area, you probably run across my family members. My family is really, really steeped into religion. We produce pastors and missionaries, all that jazz. And every trial and tribulation that our family goes through, in particular cancer, always was answered with, well, we'll just pray on it and hope it goes away. And after a while, you can only lose so many family members, and then have your mother in the hospital with cancer, and all she can do is sit and pray. Luckily, my mother's still with me, and I'm going to help her move this weekend. But it got annoying to me because I've always grown up around this sort of thing, this religion idea. And I said, okay, I can embrace that. My first sort of envisioned idea or concept of how the universe worked was eerily similar to kind of how the Brahman works and then Hindu belief, where there's this source of everything, and then when something dies, it goes back to it, gets reincarnated, and it gets spit back out in some form. And I just sort of, fabricated that in my own imagination, and then I was kind of indoctrinated into religion, specifically sort of the Southern Baptist, kind of the Methodist branches of religion, because my mother she wasn't really big on denominations per se. She had her own beliefs and her own sort of lay hermeneutics that she would sort of apply to the Bible, and she just found a church that would kind of coincide with what she already believed, which there's problems there, but she always encouraged to think about this. This is a book. Any book can be fallible. She was not a young earth creationist, so that sort of thing helped her. So she always, at every step of the way, she challenged more religious people in front of me than I care to remember. And so that stuck out to me because that was in stark contrast to a lot of my other family members, where one of my aunts who had died of brain cancer, she was a religious fanatic. She was been around Black Pentecostals, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They play what I call Holy Ghost tag, and so one of them in the middle of a sermon would jump up and all that around the church, and I'm like, man, that's the most exercise that y'all got all day. And so they start doing laps too. And as a child, I'm like, I'm used to sitting back and listening to a sermon, feeling a little warm and fuzzy at the end. And so, we shake hands and kiss and hug. We go home, right? I wasn't used to that. So this was something my mother did not care for. She actually considered it heresy. It's like, y'all putting on a show, right? You're teaching people to do this. This is not genuine. And so she would then sort of not complain, but she would sort of lament as to these people who are our relatives and their religious beliefs. And so that to me was really remarkable, because it's stuck out in that we are to be Christian. We are to be a part of this this block of individuals. This is what makes us unique from other groups, is our religiosity, but we don't actually agree on the theology. We really don't. And so that was something that stuck out, and it still sticks with me to this day. And even when I speak to my mother about religion, but because I told her, I said, look, you really don't have great justification for your beliefs. One of the things that I appreciate about my mother, she's very frank. She's very direct. She doesn't sugarcoat. She called me fat in front of my own wife. And it is something that is, I know she's mean, but honest. And she values honesty over kindness to a fault. And she understands. And I am fortunate in that she's not going to pull any support from me because I disagree with her theologically. And it's amazing to me that I keep encountering people, especially LGBTQ folks that come from Black households, that they would just disown their own flesh and blood because of who they choose to love based on these beliefs. And that is mind-boggling. And so I said, well, if I can help bring solace to some of those folks, who just so happen to look like me, or if they don't, that's fine. But that's my little bit of good on top of what I'm trying to do, here in this world.
Nice. Thank you for that. Thank you. Kevin, because Drag just talked about a bit about in the South, being in the South and being atheist a bit. And, you are, when I think of South, I think Alabama for real. So talk about your experiences about being a very much so out atheist and in a very Southern Bible Belt area, for real.
I'm happy enough to know that I have friends that don't care about my religious beliefs, so that's good. But I've lost dates, I've lost girlfriends, I'm not gonna call them girlfriends, I'm gonna call them potentials. I've lost potentials based on that alone. I've been alienated in high school because of that. And I honestly feel like and my ex-girlfriend can attest, she said she only thought atheists was like devil worshippers. I just feel like there's such a negative connotation to atheism that they feel like, oh, if you're an atheist, you must believe in the devil. There's no understanding. And and it's not a lot of atheists down. I think I can count on my finger the amount of atheists that I've met in the entire state of Alabama. Maybe three.
Wow.
And it's so hard. It is so hard to try and explain it to somebody who just don't understand, because that's so. For one, I've met people that have that question, like, oh, I don't know, should I believe, should I not believe? And they asked me, Kevin, what made you not believe? And I was like, I believed in the one thing that I know is constant, that I know will help me whenever I'm, down and out. And they asked, what is that? Myself. That's it. That's all I know that's all I know is myself. And that concept to most of my friends just don't quite land well. And it's this God-fearing thing. Like dating down here as an atheist, that is next to Alaskan ice fishing. That's like the hardest thing I've ever had to do. That. I mean, I'm just fortunate enough now that I have a girlfriend and don't care, but it's hard down here because everyone has this. I call it a matchbox mindset. Like you open it and you have so many different. So many was one belief and they just go with that one. Like that one thing is going to keep trying that same thing because they believe it's going to work. And for me, I always, since I was 12, probably, I've always challenged the status quo of how people think. Always. I've been a big researcher of Big Bang theories and the multiverse theory and all different theories to make me come to some understanding on how all of this began. And I fell in love with it. So, I mean, I explain it to a lot of people and I just get this weird look like, wait, you don't believe in God? Like I didn't come out, but I said it in class one time. And I think my teacher was saying something about blah, 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 something about God or something. And I said, well, I don't really believe in God. And everybody turned around and looked at me like I kicked a puppy or something. Like, wait, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, I exist. I'm here. Like, I don't believe in God at all. And I got disowned by a good bit of my senior class in high school. And I mean, not granted, now everybody's like, we're cool now, but it's the negative connotation that messes up a lot of people down here. And it's hard to find atheists in the South. Like, I'm pretty sure I don't know if Chicago kind of counts as Midwest, I guess. Like, okay, it's Midwest. So I could kind of find a few in Kansas and Chicago and a lot of the middle states and a lot of the upper states. But when it comes to the South, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, that's non-existent. Like you can find some open-minded people, but an atheist, forget about it. That's hard to find down here. It really is. So I mean, my experience has just been, I'm very neutral as an atheist. I'm not the Pope of atheism, but I'm very simple when it comes to my atheism. I don't challenge anybody. I don't run into anybody. Like I don't do that. But I always tell anybody, like, look, if you don't want your feelings hurt, don't come my direction with this, okay?
Right.
You gotta keep it civil. But if you don't want your feelings hurt, because I will hurt your feelings, but you know, I'm cool with it. But other than that, like my friends are cool. All of my people are fine. I don't bat on my mom too often. No, my mom is the most stubborn Christian I think I can explain everything to a T. She be like, no, I don't care. You know, Jesus wept. You know, and that's it. Like that's like, okay, well, all right, it's fine. I can't win.
Right. Yeah, give it up for Jesus weeping. All right.
All right.
That's kind of funny when you even talk about like talking to other people about if they bring up like their beliefs and stuff like that. It was kind of funny. Like I was sharing this particular link and say, hey, if you ever want to get into a mind of a Black atheist, watch tonight. Right? I only tagged like specifically people who actually were going to be on this show. But I ended up getting like an inbox from a person I know that said, hey, Cynthia, thanks for the invite, but I just want to let you know that I'm a Christian. I'm a believer in Jesus, and I pray, and yeah. And I was like, okay, thank you for, I don't remember telling you anything specifically, but if you felt the need to tell me that, okay. So that leads me into the how do you deal with the whole I feel I must tell you how wrong you are because you don't believe in God. Let's start with the Pope of atheism.
Okay.
Because you like to talk about that type of stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, look, but you know what? I would like to lead in with my story because everybody else led in with theirs. I want to lead in with mine.
Yeah, go ahead with your share.
Now, you got to remember, young bloods on this channel. My advanced age. I'm 64 years old, so
you don't look a day over 40.
Yeah, right. I was growing up during the 60s. Okay. Martin Luther King and all these other people running around and stuff. And my parents were heavily in the Nation of Islam. My great grandmother was one of the Nation of Islam folks that received Elijah Muhammad when he moved from Detroit to Chicago. And my grandmother, she remained Christian because for two things. She didn't like the long dresses and she didn't want to give up pork chops. So that was her thing, okay? And then and because of the job, my parents' work situation, I found myself a lot of time being with my grandmother, okay? So she'd take me to church and stuff. So one day, we're watching television and Martin Luther King was in Chicago and, the white folks, they throwing stuff at him and all this stuff. And then I turned around, I'm looking at this. I asked my grandma, I said, Grandma, why is it that God only helps white people? Now, I'm only going by what I've been seeing since I've been growing up, okay? And also, I was fortunate that my mom was extremely literate. She taught us how to read. Me and my brothers and sisters, we were already at a 7th grade reading level by the time we were 5. She also spoke and fluent Arabic, too. She's not from the Middle East. She's Black, but she learned how to speak and write Arabic in the Nation of Islam. But my grandmother, she was shocked at this comment, this comment. And so the next time she went to church, or when we went to church, she had put me in the hands of one of the elders, and the lady, she was berating me and all this. And she said, yeah, I bet you've never read your Bible, have you? And I had to admit, I said, no, I haven't. So I read the Bible. I read the Bible from cover to cover. And you got to remember, this was before Google, before the internet, before Post-its, before highlighters. You know, I had my little red and blue pencils and my paper clips and my little shredded pieces of paper, and I read the whole Bible from cover to cover. And by the time I got to the last page of the King James Version, I was an atheist.
Dang. Mention things in that Bible, man. I tell you, that Bible got some stories.
I didn't know there was a word to describe how I was feeling. Okay, and when I got to the meat of the Bible, I saw the problem of the tremendous inconsistencies within the four Gospels, the New Testament. You know, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And between the four, I discovered that the Gospels have got to be some of the worst reporting on a single story about a single guy in the history of reporting anything.
The CNN, the Bible.
Yeah, it's bad. It's really bad. And then I had like millions of questions.
Didn't get answered. You know. And so now I'm not like any of you guys, and Cynthia will attest to this. I don't look to link up with people. I have a very strong self-validating mechanism. I don't look for others like myself. If I think it's stupid, it's stupid until you show me otherwise. Okay? I'm very empirical in that sense, and I'm not intimidated by numbers, groups. None of that stuff. If it's stupid to me, it's stupid to me until you show me otherwise. I like that. I love that. God, I love that.
Okay.
All right.
And I never. I mean, I'm not out there being a atheist evangelist, but if somebody asks me, I'm definitely going to tell them the truth, whether I'm in the middle of Chicago or in the middle of Alabama. I don't care.
Ooh, I like that.
You're not getting in my head without giving me some good information to chew on. You're not getting in my head.
I like that, Arthur. That's what's up, baby. You need to come down to Bama, brother.
Yeah.
Well, you know, eventually, fam. You know, I got family down there, so you know, once we get out of COVID, like you know, we gonna take a trip. So I want to.
But what did you want to say?
Oh, I just wanted to throw this quote out there, and then I want you to respond, and I want others to respond too. When you hear this, if you're a Black Christian, you have a real short memory.
It's true.
It's stuck it.
Damn.
It's true. Because, you know, me personally, I look at Christianity as a component of white supremacy. You know, and the Bible itself has the receipts for it. Don't let nobody tell you otherwise. Say, well, the Bible was used. Well, the Bible was used this way because it has the permissions inside it to be used that way. What else are you going to do with it? You know, you got a chosen people concept from which you get white supremacy and manifest destiny. What are you going to do with that? But it also tells you that you can buy slaves. But it also says that you should be great to your neighbor. But who's your neighbor? The person that lives next to you in your chosen people enclave.
And it also says you shrimp. Don't know what that's about.
Yeah.
Don't know why that's a thing.
You know, the Bible as a whole is bad news, and every church out there is a facilitator for the mismanagement of the Bible. Because you can't have a church, especially a church in the Black community, that's viable without all the cherry picking that you must do in order to come up with a coherent theology to make people stay. You understand? So you're not getting me with that either, preacher. You know, what else you got?
I have nothing. I have nothing. I have nothing. So since we're talking about that, we're talking about church and white supremacy. Let's just go there. So recently there was a book that just came out called White Too Long. I was listening to a NPR podcast. I forgot the author's name. And basically he wrote this whole book because he wanted to do research on the history of white supremacy and how the white church specifically, and we're not just talking just like evangelicals, but like the white church period, no matter what denomination, organization, etc., that you belong to, was very much so integral with setting up the system of white supremacy, racism, systematic racism in America. So I kind of want you all, let's just go around the room and just just kind of give your thoughts on that. Like, how do you feel that, the church specifically was very much so integral when it came to like setting up, systemic racism in America, and why?
Sure. It is. I mean, and it has to be. If you are a white Christian and you more so follow the more explicitly divisive passages in the Bible, how could you not be? White evangelicals that have profound racial animus towards Black people are more Christian than the ones that have this more conciliatory and kumbaya way of doing things. No, to me, Christianity is part of a white supremacy system, and that's part of the reason why I won't have anything to do with it.
Feel that. I mean, I researched it a lot as a kid, and growing up into Christianity. My mom's a Christian, my dad's a Christian, well, my stepdad's a Christian, and how I deciphered it. And I didn't even look at it as like white supremacy until I got older, until I got more mature, and I started looking at it. And I researched like us as African descendants, we didn't believe in it. Like we didn't have no recollection of we didn't have anything to do with a God, a white Jesus, a Mary in a manger, walking on water, none of that. We believed in self and the balance of nature and how we exist opposed to nature. That's how we believed as the African descendants. That's what we believed. And to realize that it was pushed on us, because as a kid in high school, we were showed a lot of slave movies, like a lot of slave movies. I've seen Amistad maybe 19 times. And I saw how it went, like how we went. They never explained what the Africans believed before the Bible. All the movies made it seem like the Bible was the end all be all to getting free. Like if you believed in Jesus Christ, then you will eventually be free, and we're his chosen people and all of that. Like I always questioned it, and I feel like it was always some level of suppression, like a high level of suppression. Like I've seen people that don't want to believe in self just put everything on prayer. Like, oh, I don't want to. I really feel like, and low key or high key, I feel like Christianity is a high form of codependency, very high codependency. And I feel like if you can't understand that, if you can't see it, then that's just insane to me. Like I'm only person I'm dependent on is myself, like 100%. And I feel like keep putting all of your worries and what's the song, Cynthia? I'll put my burdens on Jesus or something like that.
Lay down my burdens down by the riverside.
Yeah, like all my burdens. Like, yeah, you throw everything on Jesus and God. Don't get me wrong, that's beautiful. That's beautiful to think about. I wish there was something I can just be like, oh, I don't know how I'm gonna pay my rent. Let me just give it to him. I'll lay it over there. He'll figure it out. That sounds cute. That sounds beautiful for a Michael Bay movie, but for reality, no, that's terrible to me. Like I've always thought that was horrible.
It's not a Michael Bay movie unless something's blown up.
Yeah. M. Night Shyamalan. Then we're saying M. Night Shyamalan.
There you go.
It always seems like being a Black Christian, you're always trying to survive and never thriving.
Right.
You're always just kept into this circle of people to just codepend on, and especially, depend on God. And I always found it very hypocritical. Just like you were saying, Kevin, I never understood before slavery where we come from, but what we believed in prior to that. It was always this, it was always Christianity, and that was it. But and I also see the beauty in being, relaxing yourself. And what I think of prayer is I think of meditation. You're speaking to yourself to, calm nerves or whatever like that. And I see that when, I join hands in circles with my family. I see it on their faces. I see how they have this sense of relief and calm when they are speaking to God. And, I never had that. And especially when my father passed suddenly, I was the only one kind of away from the home. I was in college and, my mom coached me back. And once I came home, she told me the news. For several months after my father passed, my sister and my mother proclaimed they had beautiful dreams of my dad. My mother proclaimed seeing my dad sitting on a golden bench right outside of Heaven's Gate waiting on her. And that's, and I don't talk ill of that. I see how I see the serenity it brings to her, how it puts her at peace. Losing a husband is tragic. Losing a dad is very tragic. So I see how in a time of mourning, in a time of grief, in a time of sudden loss, how peaceful that is to believe that your loved one is somewhere safe. But for me, I know.
I lost my dad too, Jenna. I lost my father.
For me, I did not have that serenity. I actually had nightmares for several months. I wake up screaming because, in my nightmares, I would feel my father attack me. So I didn't have no peace. I tried praying. I tried finding comfort. I tried finding some type of counseling, even though I didn't want to go to counseling. I was pushed into it, actually. Unwillingly. And so, I see the peace that it gives them, but I know for me, that's not for me. I don't, and it's so strange when I hear people say that, God speaks to them. I had a personal conversation with the Lord and he told me to do this. And I'm like, well, what does he sound like? I never had God speak to me in my ear. I don't even know.
That's so interesting, Jenna. Like, oh my God, that's so interesting.
Right? I've tried so hard. I honestly felt that I tried hard to listen to whatever God had to say for me, or thought this is what God had to say, or then it would turn out tragically, or it turned out bad, or I didn't get that, or I didn't get this, I didn't get this job, or I didn't get into this school. Like, okay, well, am I hearing you, or are you, is it sign language, Morse code? What is it? I don't know what it sounds like. So it was very odd to me that forever, since I was a little girl, never understood what that meant. But I would long for that serenity and that peace that I would see on people's faces.
But the ones that kill me are the ones that, the ones that do the message transfer. God told me to tell you.
Really? Did he email it to you? Did he text it to you?
How did he? I mean,
that really got me.
Christians, all of that stuff that goes through your head goes through mine too. I just don't take the extra step of claiming that it came from a source that I can't empirically prove to you.
Right.
That's crazy. But, and I'll tell you something else too, how Black people are being hustled. Black people as a whole have never seem like they never asked the question. Now think about this now. Okay, this God is the creator of the whole universe, right? He's got infinite power. He changes things when he wants to. Now, I told my grandmother, I said, now, the way things look to me, that we must be on the last on God's to-do list, because he doesn't seem to make us a priority in the areas that we need him to work his powers the most. Where is he at when it comes to our economic condition? Where is he at when it comes to our social interactions with white people? Where is he at when it comes to quashing white supremacy? Okay. But he can find you a parking space, though, right?
But if you approach a Black Christian with that,
Yeah.
it's a circular answer. They say it's necessary. It's necessary that we have to go through this suffering in order to be taught some lesson. It's necessary, like, oh, there's a reason why we're going through COVID, because God's angry with us because we allowed the gays to get married. I'm like, really?
And then you ask them, how did you get this information?
God told me.
God
told me about my Morse code. That's what he said. I got another quote, and then I want Mandisa and then Drag to respond to this. If the concept of God has any validity or use, it can only be to make us larger, freer, and more loving. If God cannot do this, then it is time we get rid of him.
That's James Baldwin.
Yes.
Yes. That's definitely it.
Baldwin said that. I did a report on him.
Said that. Yes.
Yeah,
and this is going back. I'm going to kind of condense my response here because this speaks to the psychosis that has been ingrained within our community, especially when our ancestors were brought over here against their will. And we have to remember that these things are systemic, and that, you know, when our ancestors were brought here, it was with the intention that the descendants would be slaves for life, would be enslaved for life. So therefore, that means that there is a whole institutional and systemic process that we have, that we're dealing with when it comes to our community. And because I am not a medical professional. I'm not a mental health professional, but I have been I'm a history buff. And because this is information that I learned early on in my life, I came to the understanding early about how Christianity, in particular in religion, has had such a damaging effect on our community. And we can ask these questions. They are very, very valid, because these are things I remember. I remember trying to read the Bible as a kid, and I was an avid reader. It never made any sense. It didn't flow well. You could tell it was meant to be confusing. And you can tell that, you know, when we take these factors into consideration, the fact that it was illegal to teach the enslaved to read and write, you know, the fact that the only book that was allowed to be interpreted passages was the Bible, that, you know, that perpetuated the whole subjugation and the waiting for an afterlife. That creates a psychosis that has passed down, and which, unfortunately, because, you know, Christianity is the ultimate culprit in white supremacy. However, now it has been so steeped into the psyche of the Black community that it's like we're perpetuating it as well. So understanding it from that angle, and how many people probably don't even realize it. So it's not even that they have a short memory, it's that they don't know it at all. And that they're separating. They seem to be separating white Christianity from Black Christianity. It's the same.
It's the same.
It's the same. But when you have people who have seen, and we have this very paradoxical relationship with the church and the community, because it was a representation for so long, and because it was imposed on us, and it has been a part of the community for so long, so many people think it's helpful. And we can acknowledge some of the community roles that the church has played, but at what cost? And so many people are afraid to really look into the deeper into, the trauma that it has caused our community. And this is something that is really going to take for more of us to really, offer our perspectives and reflect on, because for a lot of people, it is traumatic. And how we approach that through, education, through sometimes confrontation, but also through support, does make a difference. So it's going to have to be a number of approaches that we take to this. And yes, I absolutely encourage that if what you're believing in, because many of our ancestors believe in different gods, in different forms of nature, The education part, the education is important. But if you look at the history of mythology, that there were good gods and bad gods, you know, put them in their rightful place. Put them in their rightful place as fiction, as characters, and not as these beings that are meant to control our lives, because that's what they've been doing so for so long. And yes, many people may think that it's a comfort mechanism for them, and it really isn't. It's a crutch. It's ultimately a crutch, and people don't realize it. So at what point do I, can I say that it's just going to be easy for people to let it go? No. But, I do think that, first of all gods just need to be put in their rightful place, in the place of fiction. So yes, I would say get rid of them in that sense that they have to control your life, because first of all, they're all fiction. And once people can get to that point, then maybe they can move forward. At this, at this time, it's going to be a struggle, because again, coming from the Black community, we have these extra added challenges that are systemic and institutional. So just taking all of that into consideration, getting rid of it absolutely is the short answer. So much deeper than that.
And when you say systemic, it's systemic on a whole lot of levels. Black people generally give too much power to preachers in terms of representing us, in terms of our politics, business, and so. I mean, we can't. There's a preacher. We doing this. There's another preacher. And I personally, and y'all might push back on it, I think 97% of the preachers out there are atheists. They're just hustlers. There's no way that they could read what I read. And I realized this as a teenager. And you're a grown man reading the same thing and not come to the same conclusion that I did. Get out of here.
I think there's a lot of compartmentalization. As a matter of fact, a Facebook friend of mine messaged me today to say a local preacher was having sex with her gay brother on Grindr. Cousin rather, and I was like, "Oh, that doesn't surprise me in the least." I think a lot of these guys put themselves in these positions not because they genuinely believe that there's something out there and they've been charged with they'll pull this mantle to go and lead people to the Holy Land or whatever it is that people believe nowadays. It is a panacea. What I like to call it. This anything that goes wrong in Black folks' life, you just sprinkle some Jesus on it, and everything gets better. And I very early on in my atheism, I was quite, I would say, boisterous with how I would point this out, and up to the point that my cousin and I got into a theological disagreement, and he mentioned certain things happening in my life because I didn't have God, and I mentioned something about his life and how God didn't do it.
Hurting feelings.
So I regret saying it the way that I did.
Right.
I don't regret saying it. So it is interesting what they will and won't use to show, oh, well, this is increased my life. It was a decrease yourself and increase God or whatever it is. And I love to point out to say, if this brings you guys solace, fine. I get it. It's an opiate of the masses. That's it's referred to. But my life has only improved the second I dropped religion, and I focused on that. And I actually made this point to my mother. And I said, look, you and I agree on different socioeconomic issues plaguing people of color, all up and down, left, right, and center. I said, how about this? If we replaced, hypothetically, this attraction, this obsession with religion, with mathematics literacy, do you think that we as an entire race of people would improve? And she said yes. And I said, then what does that mean? What does that tell you then? If you agree to that, then what you are trying to instill and promote is less efficacious towards that goal than what I just suggested, right? The choice is logical. It's right there. It's a rational, it's demonstrable. The empirical evidence is there, right? We don't disagree. But there's that caveat. There's an emotional attachment. There's a fear mongering. that's not going to satisfy that existential dread of what happens after you die. That's what it comes down to. It's that fear. That support network is awesome. You know, there's plenty of Black atheist groups, Black non-believer groups, you know, that provide forms of support. It can't completely replace that network, not at all. It's been there for you know, generations, but there are different forms of support, and I have been fortunate enough to, I really don't need that, but I know other people do. So okay, let's address that. Let's take all the good stuff, you know, that we can garner from religion and just have a secular version of it without all the trappings and all the guilt and all the weird sort of ritual that are hindering people's lives, right? So what I see. Because
you also have to remember that religion does not have the monopoly on fellowship. It never has. It's hijacked it. It's often hijacked this idea that it is the end all be all, and that's what traps a lot of people. It's like, it really is like being in an abusive relationship.
Yes.
It's as if you think that there is no other option. It conditions you to think that, first of all, you are nothing without it, and that there are no other avenues, there's no other way out. This is how it's going to be until the way you die. But once you let go of that, let go of that dogma, you realize that there's not only have there always been these options, there will continue to be. And guess what? It's going to be up to us to do that. There are no magical solutions once you let it go. There never have been. But once you realize that we're responsible for our lives, and we're, you know, and as human beings, that makes a difference. And I'm a firm proponent of taking away that, disrupting that narrative and taking away that power that religion supposedly has.
Right.
Girl,
and once that's right. And once you get it off of you, own power comes through. And that's why, you know, when Black age, well, I lost this. No, you didn't lose anything. You got rid of garbage. You don't need garbage in your life. If they can't accept you as you are, it's garbage. I don't care if it's a relative, a friend, a girlfriend, there's the door.
Oh yeah, no, that was
I've like Christianity has made it so hard for people to deal with death. I feel like it's so, most Christians make it so hard to, like, it's crippled, like you said, Mandisa, it's crippled us to make us so afraid and not being able to deal with loss. You know what I'm saying? And I've lost several people in my life. You know what I'm saying? I know that. Well, I don't know, but I don't need the fact that my relatives, when I die, they're gonna be waiting for me like at an airport. Like I don't need that. Like I know that what they are, who they are, lives on through my memories of them and memories of the people that surround them. So I don't have to, like, I know that they're happy because as long as I'm doing what I'm supposed to do and I'm making someone else's life better and their memory still lives on within me, as well as their children, as their grandmother, as their aunt, and everybody who knew them in the circle, like, I know there will constantly always be alive. Because I've actually did this mental activity with myself. It's kind of strange, where if I thought about what if I did die, and then if I died, would they do like the VH1 behind the scenes of me, like what would my behind the scenes look like? And I would think, like, what would people say about me when I die? Like, will people have fond memories of me? Will they still have that old footage like they did on the whole B.I.G. and Tupac thing? Like, would I still have that impact on people even after I die? You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's usually what I focus on, just being a better person and being a much better human being, but not, like, death is sad. We all know that. Like, death is very, very sad. But it doesn't mean it has to be the end, if that makes any sense. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It makes sense. I realize, you know, I'm late in the game. I'm 30 years old. I realize how crippling it has been on my life. And I struggled alone. I didn't know anything about this, no online community, not even publicly anyone I can turn to but myself, until just last year. So I realized how crippling and how damaging it has occurred on my life. And even though I've let go of that faith, I've let go and I am a non-believer now, I'm still tragically in it. And I still have to heavily deal with it. And I'm so grateful to have the type of support I have through friends that I talk to on a consistent basis, through doing these live streams that I do with my friend, talking to people through the Discord server, doing this with you all. I realize the risk I'm taking. It's not like my church is not, internet savvy or they can't look up anything. I realize the risk that I'm taking. I feel like this is my push to officially find that stepping stone for myself to realize my full potential. So being able to identify and relate to anyone like me that is a closet atheist, I am so approachable. I just would love to speak with you. I just have this passion to really open up and to really identify what my purpose is, and so with all of that, I just hope, I just really hope that when I do have my family, when my family is known of how I am, I hope that they are still just as loving and accepting of me as a person. And my fear is that they will push that religion back on me. And I fear that I may not be strong enough to do against that. I may struggle for a little bit. I may still consistently go to church with them, and that's okay, just to keep them happy, because honestly, for many years since I was younger, I just felt like it was just, for appearances. It's just for show. It's always been for show for me.
I'm in your corner, Jenna. 100%.
The dressing up, the, matchy, it's just all been a tired show. So I just hope that they are understanding and appreciate the person that I am still. And I hope that my relationship even more so improves with them, because I also see on the flip side that me keeping this hidden, I've noticed how despondent I've become with my family. And it's unfortunate because I love them so much. And, through my father's death, we drew so much closer. That's both hurt us and made us better.
Well, what would you do if they're not understanding?
That's hard. I don't know.
It's like, because you know the sky is blue, but in order to keep them happy, you got to lie and say the sky is pink. Now, how long are you going to run with that?
And I realized that I can only keep this show up for so long, especially now. I can only keep the show up for so long. And I think I'm okay with that. And I think, at least now I'm fortunate enough to have at least a small group of close friends that I can lean on.
It's inevitably you're going to have a few that just cut you off immediately after I was on social media. I was like, not a big fan of religion. My uncle shot me a message, and it's like, hey, what's all this stuff about you hating God? And it's like, mind you, I didn't put anything on Facebook about that. But that's what he interpreted. And so I explained to him, I don't think there's really good evidence. I know our family's deep in religion, but I look forward to, just kind of discussing it. I was very open about that. He was like, nephew, I love you. I'm going to have to remove you, though, because I can't have that stuff. It was like that. This is my blood relative. And it was a slap in the face, but it was also very sobering, because it showed me that what really mattered at the end of the day came to be, there are certain beliefs you must have. The love that he shares for me is not the same love that he shares for my religious family. And that galvanized me into becoming the person that I am now. My family respects me and disrespects me at the same time. They don't actually accept me as a person, and I know that, and they know that. And I let them know that I don't respect any of them and that they are less than me. And that hurts them. Much to their chagrin, they have to respect my accomplishments because it's greater than any of theirs. And I let them know that. And I said, there's one person in our family who's actually done something about the malady of cancer, and that's me. And so while all of you sit back and look down and disrespect me in the way that you do, I will make sure that I remind you which of us is the better. And a part of that comes from just how my mother raised me, because, well, she thinks she's better than everybody else too. But that's also because it's demonstrable. I put the work in. And so I don't suggest that everybody do that with their family, but it jives well with my personality.
Sure.
People who are a bit more introverted may have to find an alternative way to coexist, because every single theist, especially black theists, they have an Achilles heel. They have somewhere that they're really not comfortable talking about, and they're really not knowledgeable, and so they're just going to throw out these canned responses. What I like to find wherever that is, whether it's science, whether it be talking about the Bible, whether it be philosophy, and I browbeat the ever living shit out of them with it.
That's right. And you also got to remember, Jenna, that most black theists don't have enough money for you to even be worried about what they think about you. So I wouldn't, man. No way.
Well, I will say this. And I mean, like, I know for like myself, I'm lucky that even though like my family is Christian, they came from like Episcopal tradition. So, you know, when I came out as atheist, it wasn't a big deal. But I also understand that if I would have stayed in my, when I was in my enclave of say, sanctified, Holy Ghost, filled, fire, baptized, running from my life and speaking in tongues, and then falling out and also running around the church, and if I would have had like a family, like a blood relative family that was really into that, this will be a problem. So I definitely like empathize, especially like, you know, for Black folk that's like really in those particular circles, because, you know, I understand that oftentimes that people, even though they may not necessarily believe in that stuff, you know, they're very scared of actually leaving community, because they're like, you know, what do I do now? Like when I'm by myself, when I'm on my own. But, you know, Mandisa, you said something like really powerful when you were talking about being responsible for my own life. Like, I remember, like, that's exactly when I had my come to proverbial Jesus moment with my atheism. I was sitting in my room and I realized that I was responsible for my own life. And that's the day that God died. That is just the day that God died. So, yeah, much respect for your panel. I have one last quote that I want everybody to respond to. We're a minority within a minority. What does that mean to you? Let's start with you, Kevin.
That also being a minority in America, as far as we're a minority within the Black community, whereas not a lot of people think like we do. Not a lot of people respect each other like we do. Not a lot of people have that next level mindset like we do. You know what I'm saying? Like they claim that they do, and you know, there's people that are spiritual, and I don't know whatever that means, and just whatever. But there's not a lot of people that think like we do. So even that there are some open-minded, you know, Black people in our, that's that we know, that's with a small amount that takes it a step further than they do. Like we go, okay, well, like most people go, well, where did we all be, where did it all start? I don't know. I'll just leave it where it's at. We go, well, I have a theory. And then we go, I think it has this much evidence behind it. And we still keep stepping forward and forward and forward. Whereas the one person that's still stuck on it, like, I don't know if I'm going to go left or right. I'm going to just stay right here because I don't want to lose my friends. You know, I don't want to be alone. And honestly, everything that we've talked about tonight, it all comes down to a basic human need of not being alone. Because if you give up a religion, whether it be, no matter what it is, mainly Christianity, if you give that up, you feel like you're alone. And human beings, we are companion-based life forms. We need that companionship. We need that togetherness. So the idea of us being alone is scary. So no one takes the blue pill. You know what I'm saying? Everybody take that red pill, or don't take any pill at all. Stay in the matrix. You know, everybody just, I'm gonna stay in the matrix. I'm gonna do cool moves. But when it comes to that blue pill, that's us. We're that minority. We take the blue pill. We out.
Blue is my favorite color, as you can see. Drag, can you respond to that quote? We are a minority in a minority.
Yes, that sounds like, did Tyson say that? Somebody said that. I do remember that. It is true. It is even within, it depends on how you look at it. Being a African American and then being in non-religious, we're a minority, and then even within the non-religious circle, we're a minority within there. If you've ever been to an atheist conference, so a sea of white faces is a good description, but it's difficult. There are dynamics that you have to deal with that are stressful for some and just kind of disconcerting in others. And I think that you can help mitigate some of them, and that those who, especially like Mandisa, who are on the forefront, trying to normalize this sort of thing, making great strides. And when it's like, that's a perfect example of somebody who is putting in the work that I could never, because I would have definitely cussed everybody else out and just said, screw y'all.
Sure.
To me, because no people do that though. But I would, yes. But that is, for me, one of the most interesting dynamics of my life, because I can understand being a minority within the STEM field. I can mentally prepare for that, right? We've gone through classes where, we may not have been, a part of this block of people, but when you're in a minority within a minority, as far as people who are supposed to be the most like you, now, like, what do you have to connect to? Because for some strange reason, we've centered this identity of what it means to be Black around religion rather than other aspects, right? Just that kind of the communal aspect of how we are, the kind of the patriarchal sort of family unit that many of us kind of grew up in. And without that centerpiece there, without that religion, you kind of sort of lose a sense of self in a way, or you have to sort of redefine or just expand what your new identity is, or even how you define it. Like, what metric do you do? All these questions are very relevant, but I think that they push the envelope because there is no hard answer. There is no right answer for any of that. It isn't. We are all individuals, but we all do connect in some way, shape, or form. Some of y'all may put sugar in your grits, and I may say you're not Black if you do that, but that's fine.
Put sugar in grits.
No. Drag, no.
Dragnauct is trying to start a whole new fight around here. Come on, man.
Some people do
it. I started stuttering. I got triggered when you said that. I'm sorry.
I went there.
Yeah, you did.
Everybody right in the audience was like, "What are they talking about? What is this?" Something.
I know you did.
It's stuff like that,
Oh no!
You know what? I thought I knew you.
Right? You lost so many cool points for that one.
You did. You sure did. Ooh, Ethan. Man, we're going to talk after this.
She makes the grits. I'm not allowed.
Yeah, right. Oh, she's trying to offload it to somebody.
Sugar and grits.
Oh, no.
Sugar and grits. Got nerve. I'm sorry, we got off topic. Minority and minority. You was going to frown that out, right?
Yeah, I was about that. It's a unique dynamic. We can make the demarcation wherever we want to make it, but the bottom line is that not to get lost, still retain a sense of self, self-confidence, a positive self-image, and that whatever unique challenges one may face within this weird microcosm will in turn make you more unique and cause you to stand out, as opposed to any other random Tom, Dick, or Harry that's just walking down the street.
All right. Jenna, we're a minority in a minority.
What comes to mind is that we are, by and large, religiously different, or by and large, religiously or non-religious from the Black community as a whole. And we are also racially different from the atheist community as a whole. Very minute of us. Fortunately, we've all gathered here and within the presence of the Lord. No, I'm sorry. It's ingrained every time I hear it. I'm sorry. See how bad it is? Okay. So yeah, it's great that we've come to find ourselves, find each other, that support system to be able to reflect on our past lives and start anew. Black people are less likely than any other ethnic group to be religiously unaffiliated. And it's just such a stronghold because, it's so mind-boggling to realize that, when you disown or turn away from religion as a Black person, it's kind of like you're disowning yourself as a Black person, like you're disowning your own race. And it boggles me how that is equated. Like you would just turn up in the new town if you live in the South, or even here, I live in California, like you welcome yourself to a new neighborhood and you happen to have a Black neighbor and they're like, oh, what church do you go to? Like that's just the mandatory thing that you have to be. Like you automatically are possibly affiliated with some church, and where is it, and can I go, or come to mine, or whatever. It's unfortunate that has to be synonymous with us, and it's important that now that the generation that I'm in and the generation slightly before mine has come out, because we have the technology to reach out to different groups. We have the technology to reach out and communicate with other people and to advance ourselves through research, through talking with others, through the internet across the state. We have that opportunity to be more free, to have that freedom and to venture and to research and explore. And more importantly, to finally think for ourselves, to seek the most truths in life, rather than to be held down and crippled to this old story of faith and belief. And so, before us, just like as Mandisa mentioned, we already existed. James Baldwin, W.E.B. Du Bois, A. Philip Randolph, Herbert Henry Harrison, all great individuals already existed before us. They were our stepping stone to get to where we are now. So it's even more important for us to be the presence for others that are kind of like me, that are closet atheists, that aren't putting themselves in a risk to put themselves out there and say, you're not alone. I'm here to support you too, even though I need all the support I can get myself. But I see myself as to be a support system for someone else as I'm learning for myself.
Mandisa?
Yeah, so the phrase minority within a minority basically to me means that we don't fit the status quo. Now, we already have our identities as being Black. Now we have, identities as atheists. For some of us, we also represent other communities. I identify as pansexual. So, that means that the more we come into ourselves, we realize that our representation gets smaller. And it does not represent what society thinks we're supposed to. But I have there's a phrase that I love to use, quality over quantity, because ultimately, once you find that a circle gets smaller, you find that, the best quality of people should be coming out, especially as you enlighten yourself. Unfortunately, as most people want answers, and they want the information given to them. And I think that that's a part of religious conditioning, but part of that is a human conditioning. And I applaud anyone who breaks out of that. That makes us special. It also makes us powerful. It doesn't make us It doesn't make us powerless, or it doesn't have to be. Like Kevin said, it doesn't have to be a negative connotation to it. It is powerful to let go and to be liberated from that indoctrination. And it doesn't have to, we don't have, because many of us have experienced, because I know I felt it. And it's a bad feeling to know that you feel like an outcast within your own community because you don't fit that mold of what it means to have that Black experience, which is ridiculous. But you find that once you come out of it, that we're not as much of a minority as people think we are, as we may think we are. There are definitely more of us out here, even though we're smaller in number. And we are, like Dragnauct said, we're doing this work. We're finding each other, we're connecting each other. And I'm very proud to have a hand in doing that. We don't now have the Women of Color Beyond Belief Conference because we were sitting around and waiting for it to happen. That has never been, that has never been. And it is sad to see that even within our own communities, that there is this sense of, well, someone is going to step in and handle it. And that's never been how we done. That's never been how things have changed. It's never going to be how things change. So, and I'm proud and I'm happy that the representation and the number of people who are coming out, especially from the Black community, has increased in almost 10 years that I've been involved in this community. It's happening. It's definitely happening. So I don't look at that as being, I definitely don't look at it as being something negative in a sense. It can be very challenging and it can be isolating. And I'm happy to not represent the status quo because I'm not what is considered normal. It is okay to not want to fit because it is steeped in, supremacy. It is steeped, which I contend has hurt everyone. White supremacy has hurt everybody, not just Black folks. But stepping out of that mindset, it will make your circle seem smaller. It may make you think that, and it is true, but it does that's not necessarily a bad thing. It is okay.
And last but not least, the Pope of Atheism.
Yes. I have never thought in terms of minority in a minority. I mean, it's almost like sound like that somebody's trying to meet some kind of quota or something, or overly worried about diversity or nothing. I mean, I love being atheist. If somebody asks me about my religious position, I have no problem in telling them. And when I tell people that I'm an atheist, I find it's a great way to separate the good people from the idiots. You get rid of them right away, okay? Black people deal with me differently, and white people, when they find out I'm an atheist, they don't come at me with that bullshit. They don't. They don't know what to do. They say, wait, what's wrong with this nigga? Well, he's an atheist, so we don't know what he might do, so we better treat him nice. Beautiful. Being an atheist is great. And I ain't trying, it's like, I don't do any kind of intentional evangelizing, but if we get into a discussion about religion, I'm going to be full-throated about how I feel about Christianity and why I'm an atheist. And I find a lot of times that leaves people thinking, which is important. I'm not trying to convert anybody, but I do want people to think, especially in our community. Now, whatever white people are doing with their atheism, that's not even in my head. They got white thoughts. I got Black thoughts. You know what I'm saying? And my Black thoughts are based within my sense of logic, my sense of self-appreciation, and my sense of understanding that, hey, there's some things that I know, and I have no problem with saying I don't know. I say I don't know a lot, and I don't feel bad about it because I don't know. And you don't know either. So, but that's my position on that phrase. No.
I think that, matter of fact, when I first met Ethan, I think that one of our conversations was about I don't know, and how that is the most intellectually honest answer that any person can give. And I lean on I don't know a lot. If I don't know, I don't know.
Right.
I consult an expert on different things that, depending on what type of subject matter that we're in. Because I know that I don't have the corner of all knowledge. I'm not omniscient, and neither are you. Said theists that like to be calling into the atheist experience, like that you're talking about science and you don't know a damn thing. I'm just saying, but I'm just saying.
Right.
Anyway, it was great talking to all of you. Thank you all for sharing your thoughts and all that other great stuff. And just as we round out this whole round table, let's just go around and just tell everybody where they can find you. Let's start with you, Kevin.
You guys can find me on Instagram at damnkev28, as well as Facebook, Kevin K Smooth Whatley, and add me on YouTube at K Smooth is my YouTube handle. So yeah, that's where you guys can find me.
Nice. Dragnauct.
There we go. I can unmute myself. You don't search my channel. My YouTube channel is stupid. You can find me. It is stupid. I'm going to tell you right now, it's stupid. You know where you can find me? At the Black Non-Believers Conference in New Orleans next year. That's where you can find me.
Nice. How about that? Well,
It's going to be in New Orleans. I already said, I told Mandisa I'm going to show out there. You going back home, my home state? Oh, yeah, I'm showing out.
Nice.
Yes, ma'am.
I know I wanted to go to the Women of Color Conference because wasn't it in Chicago when you originally had it, Mandisa?
Last year, yes, it's been rescheduled to. I'll cover all that.
Okay. Okay. Well, since I went to you, why don't you go ahead and tell people where they can find you and all that other great stuff?
Oh, okay, great. So, for my personal social media, I am on Facebook at Mandisa Thomas. You can either send me a friend request. I'm almost at my limit, so you can hit the follow button. I am on Instagram at Mandisa0904. I'm on Twitter at Mandy0904. Now, as far as Black Non-Believers, you can find us at blacknonbelievers.org at our website. We are on Facebook at Black Non-Believers. We have a public page and a private closed Facebook group. We are also on Twitter at B Non-Believers. The B and the N are capitalized. We are on Instagram at B Non-Believers Inc. And we do have a YouTube channel at Black Non-Believers Inc. So we are all over social media. You can find videos of previous events that we've had, previous discussions. And also, yes, we are very event based. So we are looking to ramp up our 2021 with our 10th anniversary celebration in New Orleans that Dragnauct just mentioned. We will be hosting the second Women of Color Beyond Belief conference that did take place in Chicago last year. It's going to be back and better than ever in 2021. And for those of you who were not aware, we also started hosting a cruise convention. Usually we go with Carnival, and there are a select group of us who go, and we have, we go and we have speakers and we have a good time. It's very fun and educational, and it's just a really, really good community building experience. I'm telling you, if you've never been to a BN event in person, you really are missing out. So I just please try to follow, subscribe to our social media and just find us wherever you can.
Excellent. Thank you. Jenna, now you.
I literally am a nobody. And as I mentioned before the show, I just created a Facebook after I would say 10 years yesterday. But as I did mention, I do occasionally host a live stream show with my friend Justin. It's called If We Are Sober, or If Was as the acronym. You can find us on Discord as International Free Thinkers. We do have a Facebook page. You can find me there, also called International Free Thinkers. Once I do kind of do something with my Facebook page, I will, put that on display. But as far as right now, that's where you can find me.
Thanks. And Arthur, Pope of Atheism, where can they find you?
Okay, well, 3 places. You can find me on the 13% on YouTube, which is every Monday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. I also have a blog, www.adosabsolute.com, in which I concentrate on politics and philosophy in regards to reparations. And I'm also on Twitter as Apanage, APANAGE, numeral 21 on Twitter. So that's where you can find me.
Thank you. Thank you for all of that. And I want to say thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you all for participating in the chat. Thank you to our panelists for, again, giving your thoughts. You know, I enjoy each and every one of you. And Drag, your YouTube is not stupid. You know, I find like a lot of entertainment in it, so hush. Especially when you ran on G-Man. That is...
Oh, no.
Oh my gosh, I'll tell you, if I need a good laugh, go there, okay? Like, oh my God, he did what? Okay, so, oh no.
I'm guessing you watched the 14-part series now.
Yeah, just about. I've been binging. Like I caught up, like because like you know I was behind, but I caught up. I was like, oh Lord, this is an actual thing. That's crazy.
It gets better.
Oh my goodness. So everybody, before you actually go, before we close out, make sure that you guys like this video, subscribe to your friendly neighborhood atheist, hit the bell so every time that we go live, you actually get notification when we go live. And also, if you like the content, you know, consider being a Patreon. You can be a Patreon for just as little as $1. $1. So please do all that, because like, you know, that definitely helps us become bigger and better as we grow. And I want to thank our top patrons of Your Friendly Neighborhood Atheists: Cindy PLAZA, Trina Deluca, Kenneth Leonard, Christian Watkins, Kathy Letto, Ian Davenport, and Bestname Ever. And I also want to thank our moderators who kept the chat friendly and all that great stuff. And I want to leave you all with this last quote. As my ancestors are free from slavery, I am free from the slavery of religion. If we had put the energy on earth and on people that we put on mythology and on Jesus Christ, we wouldn't have any hunger or homelessness.
Amen.
And drop mic.
Yes. The great butterfly McQueen.
Butterfly
Yes,
McQueen.
absolutely.
That's who that yabba dabba is. And on that note, people, thank you. Proverbial God bless you and good night.